As President Trump negotiates yet another historic Middle Eastern peace deal, the mainstream media finally tackles the Hunter Biden story, once and for all proving that they are indeed the enemy of the people. All this and more. But first,
Never tell them who I am. Well, how dare I'm a man. 6 shooters in both my hands. I'm a cold-blooded brother, a real bad mother. Watch out, honey, here I am.
welcome back to Revved Up with Ram Thorburn. We're going to start out today with another big win for Donald Trump, and this is from the Federalist. He has secured yet another peace deal between Israel and the Arab world. You know, that whole dream that we grew up with, that people like John Kerry told us were going to be absolutely impossible to accomplish. Well, I guess we got the man in office who can accomplish the impossible because, well, this is the 4th damn country. Now, this is with Morocco, and the other ones have been with Bahrain, UAE, and Sudan. Those are not the biggest Arab countries. But what he's doing is he's starting with the smaller countries that might be easier to negotiate with, and then he's going to he's setting a precedent with those. They're likely to see a great amount of economic influx due to these peace deals, and that is going to cause the larger countries to want to come on board. And I think we've already been seeing some of that. I mean, there's even been talks that there's like 15 countries lined up to get on board with this, and including Saudi Arabia. If they get Saudi Arabia on board with it, I think the entire Middle East will follow, maybe save for Iran. But Iran then will face a whole lot of pressure to get on board with Middle Eastern peace deals and recognizing Israel as a country. Because that's what a lot of people don't realize with these peace deals. You know, I try to tout them to some people that are on the left, and they try to say, oh, well, you know, they're just for show. They don't mean anything. It means quite a lot because most of these countries never even recognized Israel as a country since 1948. And that is the first big step towards getting peace, is recognizing them first to be a country and then to normalize relationships, to actually do business with them. In fact, if you fly to Israel and they stamp your passport, that means you cannot fly to a lot of these other Middle Eastern countries because they'll see Israel in your passport and they won't let you go. That's why Israel will often put a card in your passport that you can remove or throw away or, you know, do whatever with, but it won't preclude you from traveling around the rest of the region. But so that's why these are a huge peace deal, even just to normalize relations and get these countries to acknowledge Israel as a country. So President Trump and his administration facilitated another historic breakthrough for for peace in the Middle East on Thursday between Morocco and Israel, who agreed to normalize relations. According to Trump, Morocco's King Mohammed VI agreed that his country would resume diplomatic relations between Morocco and Israel and expand economic and cultural cooperation to advance regional stability. The deal not only ensures the reestablishment of diplomatic relations between the two countries after ties were cut off in 2000, but will also allow flights between the two countries, sounder business connections, and promise of establishing embassies. The embassies is a big deal because that means they're actually working together in some diplomatic capacity. But you see, they mentioned allowing flights between the two countries. That's what I was mentioning just a minute ago with the passports. So Donald Trump tweeted, "Another historic breakthrough today. Our two great friends, Israel and the Kingdom of Morocco, have agreed to full diplomatic relations, a massive breakthrough for peace in the Middle East." This might be an even bigger breakthrough in terms of how far the negotiations went than the other two. I'd have to look into the specifics again of the other two. So much news comes my way, it's hard for me to retain all the stuff that I cover. So, Trump has also declared that Morocco maintains its sovereignty over Western Sahara, an area once controlled by Spain and disputed by its indigenous population, saying that it was essential for enduring peace and prosperity. And Trump tweeted, "Today I signed the proclamation recognizing Moroccan sovereignty over the Western Sahara. Morocco's serious, credible, and realistic autonomy proposal is the only basis for a just and lasting solution for enduring peace and prosperity." The president noted the significance of Morocco's history with the U.S. when they recognized the U.S. as a country shortly after its independence from Great Britain in 1776. And he said, "Morocco recognized the United States in 1777. It is thus fitting we recognize their sovereignty over Western Sahara." I did not realize that Morocco had recognized us that quickly after the American Revolution. That's actually pretty cool. And but again, Donald Trump is doing all of these great things, and the media, the left, everybody is cheering what they believe is going to be a Biden presidency. And whenever you guys hear me mention a Biden presidency, just know that I am playing. It gets tedious to sit here and correct them all the time and say it's not over yet. Donald Trump can still win, and I do believe Donald Trump will still win. But it gets tedious to make that distinction every time I bring it up. So whenever I talk about an incoming Biden presidency or anything like this, I'm just granting them the premise for the sake of argument. Moving forward, just understand that I'm not sitting here saying that I think a Biden presidency is inevitable. In fact, I think they're starting to panic, and that's something that we're going to get to in just a little bit. But the big thing that I want to cover today is the media. And how actually, you know what? I didn't even finish the point that I was making about this. So, they're wanting a Biden presidency. They think Biden is going to come in. What do you think is going to happen to all of these peace deals? If they are even able to be maintained, that's a big question. That is a big, big question, because Trump is the one negotiating all of this, and it's his doctrine, it's his policy that is allowing all this to happen. Biden's going to come in, and he's going to reinstitute whatever the Obama administration did, which was bomb the shit out of any country they can so that they can keep the war machine going. You talk about the whole migrant crisis going on in Europe and elsewhere in the world from all of these places. Those are a direct result of Obama's policies and Bush before him. But really, the main migrant policy, which was a lot of people fleeing Syria, that's absolutely Obama. Obama created those policies, and then you have all of these people that are fleeing Syria because you had the power vacuum, the rise of ISIS, and of course the Obama administration was funding and training ISIS members. They were funding the insurgents, which became ISIS, and it created all these people that are now fleeing across the Mediterranean into Europe, where they have no prospects for them, and then they end up living under a bridge and committing crimes to survive. And then, other cultural differences that do not jive between the Middle Eastern world and Europe. There's no assimilation in that process. But the big thing that I want to talk about today is the media, because the media is absolutely proving to be the enemy of the people. And you might have noticed, they've been coming out talking about Hunter Biden now. So Politico just post this. Justice Department's interest in Hunter Biden covered more than taxes. Federal prosecutors also have instigated foreign ties, possibly money laundering, and they open by saying that the federal investigation into President-elect Joe Biden's son Hunter has been more extensive than a statement from Hunter Biden indicates, according to a person with firsthand knowledge of the investigation. And some of you guys might think, oh, wow, they're finally coming around. Bull fucking shit. This is them rubbing it in our faces that they lied and suppressed this story in order to get Joe Biden elected. Or, honk honk. Clown world elected. He's elected president of clown world at this point. They suppressed this story. You look at this story from a couple months ago, and Politico was saying, Hunter Biden's story is a Russian disinfo, dozens of former intel officials say. So, this was the media as a whole. We're all coming out and saying that the Russians, they were suppressing the Hunter Biden story, saying that it was Russian disinformation because that's what the fuck they do, that everything to them is Russian disinformation. They've been saying that since 2016, even though it's absolute nonsense. They say that the Russians tried to help Trump get elected, despite the fact that John Brennan suppressed information that Putin actually desired a Hillary Clinton presidency, because of course Hillary Clinton, she was bought and paid for. You could buy her out for whatever interest. Hell, she was the one that sold 20% of our uranium stocks in the Uranium One deal to Russia. So they hate us. I mean, they're throwing this in our faces now, covering it now. A month after the election, after they suppressed it in order to get Biden into the White House, a corrupt crime family that they knew was a corrupt crime family that had no problem selling out the American people. But they don't count themselves as the American people. These are the globalist ivory tower elites, and they hate America, and they hate you for loving America. And now they're rubbing it in your face, saying, yeah, this whole thing was true the entire fucking time, and we sat on it so that Joe Biden, our guy, could get into office. Hell, I think the only reason Joe Biden even ran for fucking president was to keep this story under wraps. You know, Donald Trump, I think the only reason Joe Biden ran was because during the entire impeachment scandal, and before that, when they were looking in to Trump for his talk with the president of Ukraine, he was investigating what was going on with Burisma. And I think Joe Biden ran for president just for the sole fact that he could then go and squash any investigation into his own damn family. That's why Nancy Pelosi is sitting there talking about the 25th Amendment, setting up a panel for the 25th Amendment, and saying it was really for Joe Biden. He's going to get in there, he's going to kill the investigations, then they're going to rule him unfit, and then Kamala Harris, who is the establishment's pick the entire fucking time, is going to be our first president, our first unelected female president. This was the plan, guys. It was to clear Hunter Biden because they knew that it was to clear Hunter Biden, which would lead to Joe Biden, which would then, in turn, lead to Obama and would lead to Hillary and would lead to the rest of the fucking deep state going down. That is the entire fucking purpose of running Joe Biden out there. Why would a 77-year-old man who is clearly addled with dementia want the job of being the United States president? So it's the hardest fucking job in the world. It's because he's covering his ass. And the Democrats knew that. That's why they propped him up. That's why they rigged the primaries against Bernie Sanders again to put him in there. So that he could go in there, he could squash any investigations that were going on into the Democrats, because they couldn't get Kamala Harris in there. Kamala Harris is their choice because, of course, you know, she'll get on her knees and suck off Willie Brown for whatever fucking job position she can get. She's a total whore. She's a whore of a politician. We all know that. That's why we call her Heels Up Harris. But she will do anything for them. She was their choice. But then Tulsi Gabbard just straight up fucking bodied her in the debates. Then Kamala Harris, nobody wanted Kamala Harris. She was polling under 1% in the primaries after that. And so they said, well, how do we do this? Okay, well, we can get Joe Biden, shoehorn him in. We can rig the primaries, shoehorn Biden in to be the president-elect, or the candidate. Sorry, the candidate. And then we can have him pick Kamala Harris to be the VP. We get Joe Biden to go in there. He cleans house and makes sure that we don't get investigated. Then he gets retired. And then Kamala Harris, our person from the beginning, is now the fucking president. That is them stealing the fucking country, guys. That is them stealing fucking America. It's exactly what they're doing, though. Exactly what they're doing. And Newsbusters put together a very good... let me make sure my audio isn't too high here. A very, very good montage here. I'm just going to play it. Remember this from 2019.
I just want to deal in fact, because there is so much speculation out there, and there is zero evidence that Hunter Biden or Joe Biden did anything wrong here.
We should note, again, and you and I have said this in the air many times, there is no evidence that Joe Biden was, involved in any wrongdoing.
Of course, I want to note that there is no evidence that Joe Biden or Hunter Biden has done anything wrong.
I just want to reiterate.
And let's be clear for the viewers.
There is no evidence Biden did anything wrong.
I'll note again, because it's important.
There is no, I repeat, no.
There is no evidence that either Biden did anything illegal.
There's been no evidence. There was no evidence.
There's no evidence. There is no evidence.
There is not an iota of evidence.
No evidence Biden did anything wrong.
There's really
no evidence
that Joe Biden
Did anything wrong.
Nobody's ever accused there's no
Evidence whatsoever that Joe
Biden did anything wrong. Got that?
Joe Biden did nothing wrong.
Hunter Biden did nothing wrong. Biden's secret emails.
A really fishy story.
The Post claimed that the emails were found on a laptop computer that was brought to a repair shop in Delaware in the spring of 2019.
The FBI is now investigating whether those alleged Hunter Biden emails are actually connected to a larger foreign intelligence operation.
They may be related to a foreign intelligence operation.
Foreign intelligence operation.
foreign intelligence.
Foreign intelligence.
Foreign intelligence operation.
For all we know, these emails are made up.
The information found on the laptop may be part of a Russian disinformation campaign.
Part of a Russian disinformation effort.
Described by many intelligence experts as having hallmarks.
All the hallmarks, rather.
All the hallmarks of a Russian
disinformation.
Russian disinformation
campaign.
This is a classic example of the right-wing media machine.
Don't drag the intelligence community into this. Hunter Biden's laptop is not part of some Russian disinformation campaign. The intelligence community doesn't believe that because there's no intelligence that supports that.
And you heard Brian Stelter sit there and say, this is part of the right-wing media machine. What right-wing media machine? The media machine is the propagandistic commie-crat left that operates like Stalinist or Chinese communist propaganda. Listen to them. They all sounded the exact same, all reading from the exact same script because they all got the exact same notes from the commie-crat party at 4 o'clock in the morning. They all got told their talking points. They all got given their scripts by the same damn people, the same damn commie-crats. And they read them like good little propagandists they are. Because they get to live their life of being famous millionaires with status and clout. Meanwhile, they lie to us, they piss on us, they fucking hate us. We're the peasants, guys. To them, we are the motherfucking peasants. Not any longer. Not any longer. And it's going to take an even further rise of independent content creators to continue stealing their viewership, which is what we're out here doing. So make sure you share this video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, hit that like button. You know, those stats actually do help in getting my videos placed a little bit higher up. Also, in case I do get banned on YouTube at some point, which is, you know, probably likely, I got a feeling the censorship is going to ramp up like crazy once the court cases get going. But you'll need to follow me on BitChute and Rumble. So if you haven't followed me there, go ahead and follow me on BitChute and Rumble as well. And you can catch all of my work there also. And I might actually start focusing a little bit more on Rumble than YouTube in the coming future, because the YouTube looks like it might be going the way of MySpace if it keeps it up. I mean, they are not working in their own best interests. So, but yeah, the media, man, they are absolute trash. And we can see here, the Washington Examiner, they put the media's biggest detractors have a field day slamming them for dismissing a Hunter Biden story prior to election. And so our media, who defiantly censored this story, are so corrupt and disgusting, they, with big tech, blatantly meddled in the 2020 election and against the American people by hiding genuinely important national security stories about Biden after years of lying about Trump. And that was from the Federalist Molly Hemingway. She's absolutely right. NPR this week reported that Biden announced he is under federal investigation over his taxes after an open dismissal of the controversy surrounding him in October, saying it would be a waste of time. And I remember when this came out, they said, I think I covered it in one of my videos back then, NPR tweeted this: why haven't you seen any stories from NPR about the New York Post Hunter Biden story? Read more in this week's newsletter. And they said, we don't want to waste our time on stories that are not really stories, and we don't want to waste the listeners' and readers' time on stories that are just pure distractions. That's what they called the Hunter Biden story. When it was being revealed that Hunter Biden was bought by China, bought by Ukraine, bought by that former, the widow of the former mayor of Moscow, who's the richest woman in Russia, $3.5 million. You know, Joe Biden flew Hunter Biden into China on Air Force Two, using government resources, using taxpayer dollars to take his son in there to set up a deal. We had Tony Bobulinski come out and say that he told them not to take that $5 million $5 million interest-free forgivable loan, which is basically just a fancy way of saying $5 million gift. Bobulinski told him, do not take that deal. Do not take that money. They went behind his back, they took it, and then Bobulinski only found out later. And he said on Tucker Carlson, the Bidens are compromised. We saw that video from Didong Sheng that came out the other day, where he's talking about how Trump is talking about how Hunter Biden has these foundations. Well, who helped him get those foundations? You got it? It was them. It was the Chinese. $1.5 billion equity deal for his Rosemont Seneca company. They are bought. We have a foreign mouthpiece that just got elected into the White House. Essentially a foreign fucking agent. That's what Joe Biden is at this point. He's a foreign agent. There has to be legitimate means to undo this, to get rid of this. And the media, big tech, they covered this entire fucking thing up. We were telling everybody about this. They silenced us. They kicked us off of social media. The media itself said, no, this is Russian disinformation, because that's their fucking go-to line with everything, despite the fact that John Ratcliffe came out and said there is no evidence that this is Russian disinformation. The Bidens themselves were not even denying it. They didn't push back against what was the Hunter Biden laptop stuff at all. The media made up the excuses for them. They just had to sit back and let the media do the job for them. Guys, this is communist propagandism. This is authoritarian control over information. They don't want you to know. And now that they think that Biden is in the White House, now they're totally comfortable coming out and saying, yeah, motherfuckers, it was true the whole time. Now eat your fucking Biden and go to bed, bitches. That's what they're saying to us. Fuck them. Fuck them. This shit will not stand. So we got Molly Hemingway here. So Sam Stein tweeted this out. Evidence of a money laundering probe into Hunter Biden was apparent in the markings on a series of documents that were made public but went largely unnoticed in the days leading up to the November elections. That's from the Daily Beast. Molly Hemingway replies, went largely unnoticed? Went largely unnoticed? The documents were willfully suppressed by corrupt media and their fellow Democrat/establishment allies in big tech. Exactly. It didn't go unnoticed. You shut it down, motherfucker. Ben Shapiro says, meanwhile, according to CNN, the DOJ kept their investigation quiet due to Justice Department guidelines prohibiting overt actions that could affect an election, the person said, which means they kept quiet to affect an election. Yes, if you are doing it because no matter whether it's speaking up or staying quiet, if you're doing it with the fact that an election is coming up in mind, then you're doing it to affect an election one way or the other. So here's the thing about how members of the media now screaming about the undermining of democracy. Fuck right off. Your job was to bring relevant information to the American public. You ignored it because you are largely Democrat mouthpieces. Sean Spicer says, this is taxpayer-funded NPR forgetting how they dismissed the Hunter Biden story. Tim Pool says, journalism now exists to protect the corrupt. Exactly. But just because media hid the story and big tech censored it doesn't mean we have to accept it now. Joe Biden is compromised and helped facilitate Hunter's business dealings with China. Damn straight. Mark Levin says, the Biden crime family, a massive scandal covered up by a massive media scandal. Exactly. This is a huge, huge media scandal. This is a huge media scandal. This is not a free press. This is a controlled press. And that's why, you know, when I showed, it's a controlled press. And, you know, it's, how can you deny things like Project Mockingbird now? When you hear that video and you hear them all saying the same thing, their lines just running together, just like a mockingbird, just repeating what they're told to repeat, the narrative, the story, not the truth. So, Kayleigh McEnany says, only now will the media cover Hunter Biden. During the election, Hunter's associate went on the record, Hunter's laptop was turned over, Biden campaign didn't deny New York Post reporting. Now, Hunter admits to being under investigation, and only now does fake news cover. Rita Punahi says, Politico before and after. Okay, that's exactly what I just showed you guys. Jonathan Turley, the son of the incoming president, will now be investigated by his own Justice Department, and many in the media seem to still be struggling with the journalistic version of the denial stage of the Kubler-Ross stages of grieving. That one went a little over my head. Jonathan Turley, you got a little complicated for me on that one. Tim Murtaugh says, for weeks leading up to the election, the media was unaware that a federal money laundering investigation into Hunter Biden and associates was open and ongoing. Yes, was unaware. They were not unaware, and almost no one wrote about it. Was aware. Yeah, was aware that was going on. Almost no one wrote about it. Our requests were met with eye rolling from most of the press, and now here we are. And Tim Murtaugh, he was the communications director for the Trump campaign, but he was behind that entire thing. Let's see here. Now, we all know this election is not over, despite what they say. I know it, you know it, they know it, and hell, even the Australian Senate knows it.
And let me just wrap this up by saying that this election is not over in the states. 17 states have just sued the other states, and we will see who is leader of the free world come back next year. Thank you.
They're sitting there pointing out, guys, that election's not over. That election's not over. So we all know this. It's not done. It is not done whatsoever. And we have this. So 106 House Republicans have announced their support for the Texas lawsuit against Georgia, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. And honestly, come on, Republicans, 106? Those are rookie numbers. Got to pump those numbers up. Either that or we're going to primary you and get you the fuck out of there, because everybody should know by now the Republican Party is the party of Donald Trump. If you're not on board with Donald Trump, then get the fuck out, because you're just as bad as the Democrats, the commie-crats. You're part of that same fucking establishment. So, over 100 GOP members of the House Intel jointly filed a brief supporting Texas lawsuit against 4 battleground states seeking to block them from voting in the Electoral College for alleged unconstitutional irregularities. Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton filed a lawsuit on Tuesday challenging the election results. We know all that, alleging that they had violated. Okay, so we know about that. But we now have a list of 106 Republican representatives who have signed on board supporting that. And we have President Trump himself has filed a motion to join the Texas Supreme Court lawsuit against Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, and Georgia. And so President Trump Wednesday evening filed a motion to intervene to join Texas's lawsuit because he is the real party of interest. Trump, acting in his personal capacity as a presidential candidate, seeks to intervene in order to protect his unique and substantial personal interests as a candidate for re-election, according to a 39-page court filing. Trump's attorney, John Eastman, wrote in the motion that President Trump seeks to have the votes cast in the defendant states unlawfully for his opponent to be deemed invalid. Arizona on Wednesday joined 18 other states. So it was up to 19 states. Joined 18 other states to back Texas in its lawsuit against Michigan, Pennsylvania, Georgia, and Wisconsin over the fraudulent election. Okay, the list has grown to 18 states, so I guess that makes it 18. So 17 other states, Gateway Pundit. But the media, they're panicking. Like I said, they know that this isn't over. And so we've got this clip of Mika Brzezinski here. And I mentioned Mika Brzezinski, was it yesterday's? A couple videos ago, or was it yesterday? Where she was talking about how she's not playing nice with the Republicans anymore. That bitch hasn't played nice with the Republicans since as far as I've known her name. But listen to her here.
President Trump is focused on another number, a fake one, by the way, where he thinks he can overturn the election. The 17 states that signed on to a ludicrous lawsuit aimed at overturning the election and effectively destroying American democracy while Americans die.
Just getting started. Effectively destroying democracy? Like you guys aren't destroying democracy by not feeding people the information, the truth of what's going on. How you guys have said there's no evidence of voter fraud, despite the fact that there's massive evidence of voter fraud. And then you're just going to shoehorn in while people are dying. Way to try to fit a square peg into a round hole, Mika Brzezinski. That shit doesn't fucking fly. We're not that fucking stupid, and that's the problem, is they think we're that fucking stupid. They think they can sit there and make these statements and then just shoehorn in while people are dying. That has nothing to do with what you're talking about. They think we're fucking dumb. But anyways, back to this bitch.
And while so many Americans are separated from loved ones, their lives turned upside down, their kids' education in limbo, President Trump continues to throw holiday parties largely unmasked and with all the hallmarks of a super spreader event. Here the president is getting cheered on as he is talking about these lawsuits and pushing members of the Supreme Court and high courts to overturn the election for himself. And these maskless idiots are spreading coronavirus tight in a room. Jeff Bennett tweeting here, spare a thought for the White House residence staff and Secret Service agents whose lives are endangered by this wanton recklessness and flouting of COVID precautions. We had a doctor on the show earlier this morning.
First of all, Jeff Bennett, be a fucking man. You sound like a pussy-ass little bitch.
Who talks about patients that she has lost, that if they had received the vaccine, if it had come sooner, or if perhaps her patient had the special meds that President Trump and Rudy Giuliani received, perhaps that patient would be alive. This is the presidency that many Americans voted for.
Damn straight.
But I believe are victims of disinformation. We know this, actually.
We know this, actually. Disinformation. How many times have we heard that fucking line? In fact, they just proved that disinformation line is absolute motherfucking bullshit. They just showed that, you know, with the whole Hunter Biden thing. They called that disinformation. And then she says, we know this. No. What we know is that you're a propagandist, that you're full of shit, and that you are the fucking enemy of the people, Mika Brzezinski. Fucking enemy of the people. But Chris Cuomo is going off too, and he might be even worse here because Chris Cuomo faked his own COVID quarantine. I'll talk more about that after I play his clip here.
Brothers and sisters, this is the worst of times. The reference is not a nod to A Tale of Two Cities. We are all together in a single world of pain. We've never had more starving from a pandemic in modern times. Today, more died from this virus than on any...
The only reason we have starvation from the pandemic is because your fucking party decided to shut everybody's businesses down.
Single day before. And yet, it will now get worse. Partisans with poisonous intent are trying to create a crisis on top of a crisis. This moment will be remembered for what happens next. And I want to be on record to you and to all, as an American, as a journalist, and as an officer of the court. Trump and his party are trying to kill our democracy with these efforts. And I accuse them of this high crime tonight. This is wrong.
These people are panicked. And Fredo Cuomo here, whose brother is responsible for killing tens of thousands of elderly people with his sending old people into nursing homes with COVID, he has no fucking room to talk, especially after faking his quarantine. Yeah, and then after... So, I don't know if you guys remember this. Chris Cuomo got COVID, which was probably all staged. He probably didn't get COVID, and he had to act like he was on death's door so that he could play it up because they try to fear porn us to death. And then he was seen out in the Hamptons, I guess looking at a property, and some guy was riding by on a bicycle and was like, hey, it's Fredo Cuomo. Aren't you supposed to be in quarantine? And Fredo Cuomo gets into like a verbal altercation with him, I guess like threatens to fight him because that's what Fredo Cuomo does when you call him Fredo Cuomo or call him out on his bullshit because he is nothing but a walking fucking turd. And then he goes on radio acknowledging that happened, and then about a week later, he comes out of it. He does on CNN this whole special where he comes out of his basement and sees his family for the first time in a month. It was an absolute fucking lie. He was just seen with his family out in the Hamptons a week before. He acknowledged it, and then he never mentioned it on TV. Never brought it up. These people are fucking frauds, guys. Donald Trump was right. The fake news media are the enemy of the people. And Fredo Cuomo is one of the fucking worst. And his brother Andrew Cuomo deserves to be in prison for what he has done to New York. These people are disgusting. But at the end, this is what they want. This right here. President-elect Joe Biden selects Susan Rice as as director of White House Domestic Policy Council. Susan Rice teamed up with old Joe and Framing Michael Flynn. This is what they want. They want the old guard, the establishment, the Obama, Hillary Clinton, commie-crat establishment back in power. And they are just so damn happy that they think it's happening. But they're panicking because they're realizing that they're about to get straight up butt-fucked by this Texas lawsuit. They're going to win this, guys. They're going to win this. Donald Trump will be in office January 21st, 2021. We will have 4 more years of Donald Trump, and then he will tear the fucking establishment down to the fucking stubs. Tear them the fuck down all the damn way. And Nancy Pelosi, you can also see she's panicking. We had that whole story about Eric Swalwell come out with the Chinese, and we're going to get more into the Chinese in just a minute here. But she's coming out covering for Eric Swalwell and then trying to say that it's not an issue compared to QAnon or something. I don't know. Let's listen to Nancy Pelosi, because this bitch is also getting real fucking shaky in her boots.
Was over. That was the end of any communication with those people. So it isn't, I think we should make sure that everybody knows what they are being subjected to. But I don't know that it means that we have to background checks for every intern who comes into the Capitol. I do think that it's unfortunate that Mr. McCarthy is trying to make an issue of this when his leader, we all found out at the same time, the Republican leadership, and that several members had been approached. Were you briefed on this? We were all at the same moment. The House, Republican and Democratic leaders, and the leadership of the committee were briefed at the same moment. Make sure you know that, because he keeps going around saying, when did they know? We knew when they knew. And at that time, that was the end of it. But you know what he's trying to do? He's trying to deflect attention from the fact that he has QAnon in his delegation over there. And that, I think, is a danger in terms of our debate here about, what the possibilities are for undue influence to members of Congress.
What in the god-awful fuck is she talking about? Nancy Pelosi is a goddamn psychopath. She is a psychopath. And the question is, because Nancy Pelosi is the one that put Eric Swalwell on the Intelligence Committee. Nancy Pelosi put him on the Intelligence Committee, I think in 2013. So the question was, did she know about this when that happened, when she put Eric Swalwell on there? Because we all know these California commie-crats are basically ground zero for Chinese infiltration. And we're going to get to another one in just a second. But what the hell is she talking about? Trying to deflect that he has QAnon in his... What the fuck are you talking about? Has QAnon in his cabinet or whatever? The fuck are you talking about? First of all, who's deflecting? You sit there, once you start talking about that, you start shuffling your papers all nervously, you start stuttering all over. Nobody knows what the fuck you're trying to say. You can't get your fucking words out because you can't get a thought together because you know you're fucked. Because you know you're fucked, Nancy Pelosi. And she's sitting there trying to say that basically it's no big deal that there was a Chinese spy in Eric Swalwell's in Eric Swalwell's circle, and they put a intern in his office. That's not a big deal because they're just Chinese communists. They're just foreign communists and our biggest adversary. I mean, but these QAnon people, I mean, these are American patriots. We have to worry about them. Think of what she's actually saying there. And I'm not sitting here endorsing QAnon or saying go start following QAnon or anything like that. That's not what I'm saying. But I do know that QAnon people are activistic out of patriotic fervor. I do know that about QAnon people. And so if she's worried about them and not Chi-Coms, well, what the fuck does that say? What does that say about her and her priorities? She is an absolute psychopath. But we all know these California commie-crats have all been infiltrated by the Chi-Com commies. So we also have one of the big ones, Senator Dianne Feinstein, who I think might have been like ground zero for the infiltration of California to the Chi-Coms. You know, so there's a report out now saying Democrat Senator Dianne Feinstein seriously struggling, cognitive decline evident for several years. And the other day I was like, what is she, 85 now? She's 87. What the hell is she still doing in the Senate at 87 years old? She's trying to pull a fucking Ruth Bader Ginsburg. So, according to the New Yorker, 87-year-old Democrat Senator Dianne Feinstein is seriously struggling and her cognitive decline has been evident for several years. Interesting timing of this New Yorker story as it is being revealed that many San Francisco politicians were targeted by Chinese spies. And she's on there talking about how happy she was when she was mayor of San Francisco in the 70s to be able to make Shanghai the sister city of fucking San Francisco. Again, in America, it's Shanghai, bitch. We know that she's had a relationship with the fucking Chi-Coms for a long time before she was even a senator. Now, citing people familiar with the matter, Feinstein has been seriously struggling with her short-term memory, has grown so poor that she often forgets she has been briefed on a topic, accusing the staff of failing to do so just after they have. Basically, she's out there losing her marbles, but very, very convenient as well. Now, Feinstein was elected to the Senate in 1992, and within 1 year, a Chinese spy was put on her payroll, and was on her payroll for 20 fucking years. That means one of two things. One, she invited the Chinese spy onto her staff, which I think is the most likely. Or two, she's so fucking incompetent, she should never have been a senator in the first place. Still quite likely, but not, I still think that she knew. I think she knew, because she has been fostering. Look at this. Shortly after a Chinese spy was planted into Feinstein's office, her husband, Richard Bloom, raked in the cash and made hundreds of millions of dollars off his Chinese investments. And of course, Feinstein got away with it because she has Democrat privilege. Richard Grinnell says that the spy scandal with Eric Swalwell is just the tip of the iceberg and that more information on other California politicians will be coming out soon. No doubt Feinstein is wrapped up in this Chinese spy scandal and will use her cognitive decline as cover for her corruption. In fact, there's been a lot of people thinking that Joe Biden's cognitive decline is really just cover for his Ukrainian and Chinese corruption as well. At this point, wouldn't surprise me. You know, there have been certain times, like during the debates, when Joe Biden came out, and it's not like he was as sharp as he was when he was younger, but he certainly was far sharper than he is when he's bumbling. I mean, we've seen him where he's just like, it looks like he needs to be walked off stage and let on, where am I? Where am I? You know, I mean, we've seen Joe Biden pull that routine, and then we've seen him at the debates where he's actually fairly with it. It seemed very evident that Joe Biden is at least, maybe not entirely faking it, but maybe putting on a little, exacerbating it for show a little bit. Exacerbating it so that people think he's a little further gone than maybe he actually is. And I think that could be quite possible. And one of the issues that we're finding out now, and we saw in that Di Dong Sheng video, where he was talking about how they used Wall Street in order to manipulate the establishment. And really, I guess, I don't know how manipulated they were. The establishment, I don't think, seems to have much of a problem with being controlled by Chi-Coms. But we've got this from the Federalist now, that Wall Street loves when communist China tells sweet billion-dollar lies. No matter how much Wall Street firms kowtow to the Chinese Communist Party, they will never gain the kind of market access they desire. Now, I'm going to read the first part of this, the first part of the story, but honestly, I would suggest all of you go and look up this story, The Federalist, and just look up Wall Street loves when communist China tells, just Google it or DuckDuckGo it. I don't use Google anymore. I use DuckDuckGo. But search that, and I would suggest reading this whole story. But nowadays, one of the few issues that can unite Republicans and Democrats in Congress is the effort to hold communist China accountable. Well, I don't know that that's entirely true, because Joe Biden just came out saying that he was not going to hold them accountable for their involvement in spreading the Wu flu throughout the whole fucking world. So I'm not sure that entirely stacks up, but maybe on some level. In early December, the U.S. House of Representatives unanimously passed legislation that would ban trading shares of Chinese companies whose audit papers aren't inspected by U.S. regulators for 3 consecutive years. The same legislation was approved with bipartisan support in the U.S. Senate in May, and President Trump is likely to sign it into law in the coming days. This effort is long overdue. Chinese companies have enjoyed access to U.S. capital markets for years and collectively raised billions of dollars from international and American investors. Capital from global investors help fuel product innovations and market share expansions for these companies, help to many Chinese millionaires and billionaires. There are currently more than 250 U.S.-listed Chinese companies with a combined market capitalization of more than $2 trillion. According to U.S. securities laws, work done by auditors of all publicly traded companies in the United States must be subject to supervision and routine examination of U.S. regulators such as the Securities Exchange Commission and the Public Company Accounting Oversight Board. Yet by invoking national security concerns, Beijing has prevented U.S. regulators from inspecting the financial records as well as auditors' reports of Chinese companies. This is a gross violation of investor protection. Absolutely. And it's basically making it easier for a Chinese communist company to get on the markets here in America, and then we have no way of knowing whether they pumped up their numbers, which they've found we found numerous times Chinese companies have done. Some have claimed that they had $4 billion more in market flow and cash flow than they actually had, and then when that got discovered, all of a sudden the stock tanked. The company became worth nothing, and all of the Americans who invested in it, because nobody in America actually oversought to make sure that their books were good, lost their fucking savings in it, or lost however much they put in it. So it's incredibly dangerous. You're basically saying that Americans have to follow all of these rules, which of course they should follow these rules. If they're going to be publicly traded companies, they shouldn't be boosting up all their stocks, or basically pulling Enrons or WorldComs, which when I was younger, I had a good bit of money in WorldCom, lost it all. So I understand how that works. When you cook the books, show that your company is worth all of this money, then it isn't. Everybody sells off, it crashes and is worth absolutely nothing. Well, the Chinese are free to pull that here because we have no way to backstop what they're actually doing or what's going on with these companies, and then they can totally fuck us. That should not be allowed to happen. It's not only giving them an edge to get into the marketplace, it's then allowing them the ability to screw us over once in the marketplace. Absolutely, absolutely insane. But at least we're starting to wise up to some of this stuff. So this is from Reuters. The FCC is beginning process of halting China Telecom U.S. operations. The U.S. Federal Communications Commission said on Thursday that it has begun the process of revoking China Telecom's authorization to operate in the United States as it took further steps to crack down on China's role in the U.S. communications. Now, you guys know where I stand on China. I think that we need a full Cuba-style embargo. Get them the fuck out. Do not deal with them. Bring back all of our manufacturing here to America and starve the Chinese out until the communists wither and die. But FCC Chairman Ajit Pai noted that several U.S. Government agencies had recommended the revocation, citing national security concerns. Yeah, we absolutely should not have Chinese telecom companies here in America. Fuck no. Nothing tech or data driven. Nothing where they can steal our information, which we already know they're doing probably through a lot of apps on our phones already. But we need to something's got to be figured out with this, and we got to cut China off. We got to cut that umbilical cord. We are the country that raised China to be the monster that they've become. And we are wholly accountable for that. Except, well, we should be wholly accountable for that. And it's your Henry Kissingers of the world. the ones who wanted to open up China during the Reagan administration. It's the Joe Bidens who for years said that a rising China was good for the world. Fuck no, it wasn't. It was as good for the world as a rising Nazi Germany. And they're actually doing a lot of the same things that Nazi Germany did. I talked earlier yesterday about how Huawei is helping them develop facial recognition technology that can send alerts to authorities whenever there's a Uyghur Muslim in a crowd of people. Basically, so you can be a Uyghur walking in the street trying to go to the grocery store, you walk in front of a camera, an alert gets sent, and by the time you're checking your fucking groceries out, you're in fucking handcuffs being sent off to a concentration camp. That's what Huawei is fucking doing. That's what these Chi-Com companies fucking do for the Chi-Coms. So, Pai said there are significant concerns that China Telecom will be forced to comply with Chinese government requests for information, including communication intercepts. Of course they will be. That's how China operates. That shouldn't be a significant concern. That should be a foregone motherfucking conclusion. So, China Telecom, the largest Chinese telecommunications company, has had authorization to provide telecommunications services for nearly 20 years. Why the fuck have we allowed that? What happened to the day when communism was the enemy of America? I swear, the worst thing that ever happened was the end of the Cold War. The Berlin Wall falling might have been the worst fucking thing ever because it made us think we won the war against communism, and then it didn't matter when other communist countries rose up. What? So the FCC in April had warned that it might shut down U.S. operations of 3 state-controlled Chinese telecommunications companies, citing national security risks, including China Telecom Americas, as well as China Unicom Americas, Pacific Networks Corp., and its wholly owned subsidiary ComNet. Yeah, we need to get those motherfuckers the fuck out. Get them out of here. But y'all remember that video I showed of Cynthia Johnson? Well, that bitch is back. Listen to her. Remember how I said the other day? I said, she, I couldn't confirm it, but she said it was something when she said soldiers go out and, do it right or whatever it was she said. And I heard that she had said she meant soldiers of Christ or something. And I was like, bull fucking shit, because she's talking to the fucking party of atheism, the commie-crats. Well, she came out and officially made that statement with this. And James Wood says, should Democrats be required to undergo an exorcism before being allowed to engage in government? Just saying.
All you soldiers of Christ. Soldiers against racism. Soldiers against misogyny. Soldiers against domestic violence and domestic terrorism. Soldiers, rise. It's time for you to rise. Soldiers. Soldiers for Christ. Soldiers against racism. Soldiers against misogyny. Soldiers for black and brown people who are being mistreated. Rise, soldier.
Well, definitely a fucking psychopath. Well, she had one more.
I'm good. I'm okay. I'm not worried. I'm not going underground. I'm not changing my fucking phone number. I ain't doing none of that. But we gonna change some shit that's been going on in the city of Detroit. Things that have happened to our people in our community. Oh, yes. The Biden and Harris administration owes the city of Detroit.
Yeah, because you helped them rig the election for them, you bitch.
Oh, yes. I put my life on the line for not only the Democratic Party, the Republican Party, the city of Detroit. I put my life on the line for justice, for democracy, And mind you, I never called anyone out of their names, of course, unless they're liars or dumbasses.
Well, how about we give this lying dumbass a new name out of her name? From now on, this is Cuntia Johnson. Cuntia Johnson. Representative Cuntia Johnson speaking to you all because she is a fucking lunatic. And a cunt.
I appreciate you. Let's do things a little bit differently. We don't have to call people out of their names. We don't have to make threats. All we need to do is use your own words and use your own voicemail messages and use your own videos. Use your own shit.
The fuck is she talking about?
It won't be your words. It will be the words of hate. It will be the words of hatred. And then the whole world can see.
What the fuck was that bitch talking about? This woman is insane. She must have gotten swapped out of the asylum at some point. She must have gotten swapped out. I don't know what's going on there. I got one last thing that I want to close this episode on today, and this is just something that I thought was absolutely entirely ridiculous. Barack Obama blames Rush Limbaugh and Fox News for ruining his connection with conservatives. What connection with conservatives? In fact, it was Obama running in 2000 when he started making a name for himself in 2007, 2008 that turned me into a conservative. I mean, I was always kind of anti-establishment, anti-government, but I had these kind of like lefty punk rock views that were not very well formulated, were not very well educated, were not very well. I didn't really know anything. I just kind of had that sense of things. But it wasn't until Obama came out that had me running from the left to the right, to the conservatives. He didn't have that connection with conservatives. So, former President Barack Obama blamed Fox News and conservative radio host Rush Limbaugh on Tuesday for losing the connection he claims he had with conservatives before he was president. During a virtual gala for the nonprofit organization PEN America, in which he accepted an award, probably just for being him, Obama said, "I ended up getting enormous support in those pretty conservative, rural, largely white communities when I was a senator. And that success was repeated when I ran for president in the first race in Iowa. By my second year in office, I'm not sure if I could make the same connection because now those same people are filtering me through Fox News and Rush Limbaugh and an entire right-wing conservative media infrastructure that was characterizing me in a way that suggested I looked down on those folks or had nothing in common with them." Right, because you talked about, being clingers, clinging onto our guns and Bibles and stuff like that. And first of all, you're the one. It also started coming out that you announced your political career in the living room of convicted weather-ground communist terrorist Bill Ayers. He announced his political career in the living room of Bill Ayers, convicted communist terrorist. And then when he's running, he starts talking about, we're going to fundamentally transform America. Why would you fundamentally transform America if you love America? Imagine meeting a woman and you're dating her for a while and you get engaged and, it's a week before the wedding and you look her in the eyes and you say, "Baby, I just love you so much. I just can't wait to fundamentally transform everything about you after we get married." What the fuck? What the fuck? No. No, you don't fundamentally transform something that you think is inherently good. That was the biggest thing that for me. When he said we're going to fundamentally transform America, I was like, ho, pump the brakes. No to this Obama guy. Get me off of this fucking bus. So, during a recent interview with the Breakfast Club, Obama also blamed Limbaugh and Fox News for perpetuating a sense of victimhood among white males. We don't have a sense of victimhood. We're just constantly being attacked by intersectionalists because intersectionalism is now the fucking thing. And it all works on a level of victimhood hierarchy. And it's all about bringing the one on top down a peg so that everybody's even because communism. And who do they think is on top? Straight white males. So that's who we now have all this talk about. What is whiteness? We have, best-selling books by Robin DiAngelo called White Fragility and all that bullshit. So, yes, we are under attack, and while we're not claiming to be victims, we are annoyed by the fact that we're constantly being attacked just for who we are. We haven't done anything. We're being judged by our skin color and our gender, which is what we have been moving away from doing as America. So he says that's what's always interesting to me is to the degree to which you've been created you've seen created in Republican politics the sense that white males are victims. They are the ones who are under attack, which obviously doesn't jive with both history and data and economics. Well, for one, it's not going to jive with history because intersectionality is a new thing that your fucking administration lit on fire. And data and economics, sure, it's going to take time. You're expecting all of this stuff about... He's trying to expect things that are measurable from years and years back to be relevant to something that is happening just the fuck now. That his administration and his policies and his rhetoric and his attitude helped engender. This man is fucking evil. This man might be the goddamn Antichrist. But that's a sincere belief that's been internalized. And internalized. Listen to that fucking rhetoric. That's a story that's being told. And how you unwind that is going to be not something that is done right away. Yeah, it's going to be by not being intersectionalists, guys. It's going to be about taking the cultural Marxism and throwing those books out the window. Stop reading White Fragility. Stop reading How to Be an Anti-Racist and all that Ibram X. Kendi bullshit. So, anyways, I just wanted to end on that little story about Barack Obama, who doesn't seem to understand the own fires that he has set. And absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. So that's going to be it. That's all I got for you guys today. Don't forget to follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Parler, and Instagram. Also on mindsandpilled.net. Follow me on Rumbled and BitChute if you'd like to contribute to the channel, because I mostly do this for free, and I've been operating at a loss so far to this point. There are links to my Subscribestar, PayPal, and Patreon down in the description below. As always, rev your engines, ride hard, and fight like hell.
Every time who I am.